First few drivers
Yep,
making
checking.
their way out for some qualifying at the moment. The pack will be led out by the two Red Bull drivers. Looks to me like we are good to go.
Mm-hmm.
All right, folks. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As always, welcome back for another edition of the 2024 ARC Formula One season. We are here in race number 12 out of either 13 or 15. It's unclear to me. Schedule has 15 races on it. However, most of the check-ins say 13, so I'm honestly not too sure. Regardless, we are here today at COTA for the USGP, the first race on the calendar, I believe, that will be taking place in America for the ARC Formula One season. Joined as always in the booth by Billy Targi. Billy, how are we on this fine Friday?
Oh, we're doing all right. We've got a little title decider, perhaps, out there today. Question remains Cameron Lopez with the championship lead by 27 over Mikey DeYoung, who we don't see right now, but has been known to join during qualifying. So you're not going to get off that easy, Cam. Still a lot to play for here with 2 races left.
Yeah, I mean, it's all coming down to this, if nothing else. Plenty of other battles up and down the running order for the Drivers' Championship. However, most notably, as mentioned, Cameron Lopez, 27 points out front of the rest of the pack for the lead in the Drivers' Championship, looking to lock it up in some way or some fashion tonight. I mean, as mentioned, Mikey DeYoung, all he really has to do is show up and put on the performance that we all usually expect from him, and things kind of work their way out from there. However, Cameron Lopez with a real chance. He will be the
Yeah,
first one to start his hot lap.
he is the defending ARC Euro champion, and he's moved up. I mean, mostly due to the fact as well that we don't have a Euro Championship this season due to lack of attendance, but nonetheless, Cameron Lopez looking to essentially do the F1 or F2 to F1 type thing, except it's kind of a, I don't know how you say it, sideways promotion.
I suppose, yeah, lateral promotion, if nothing
Hmm.
else. Interestingly, though, it should be noted just as we get going here with qualifying, Jamie Knock opting for the intermediate compound tires has not made his way out onto the track yet. However, he is the lone wolf in that sense.
Oh, look at it. It doesn't show it on my screen, but I got the live stream up, and I look. The it's a bit wet out there in Austin.
Plenty of tire testing going on in the last few weekends, in real life as far as F1 goes. Oliver Behrman and who else was it? Arthur Leclerc, the little Leclerc, both putting in their time, their laps, doing some tire testing for some of the new water guards, some of the new spray guards that we'll
Mm.
be seeing on the F1 cars moving forward. So maybe
Oh,
Jamie Knock is just kind of trying to get in the spirit of that. They literally hosed down the track with water to let these cars be tested with these new splash guards. So maybe Jamie Knock was looking to participate in that. However, he finds himself in
oh,
qualifying instead.
George Knight moving to a Red Bull for this week.
Yeah, just a few
Excuse me for the yawn.
bankers.
Yeah, barring the absence of Jackson Altman, George Knight puts in the fastest lap, going 2 tenths clear of his teammate Cameron Lopez and team owner AJ Knickel up into never mind. He'll get pushed down to fourth as Boryoshi takes P3, 4 tenths off of Cam and almost a full 9 tenths.
Yeah, takes
Math is hard. 7 tenths off of George
Alpha
Knight.
Tauri getting bumped down a place. These first laps that these drivers will be putting in are mostly just banker laps, just trying to make their way onto the board
Oh,
regardless of where they are. Already
newcomer
7
Matthew goes
drivers.
P3. Matthew, unsure of last name, can ask.
Yeah, Mr. Matthew, a newcomer to the ARC Formula One grid. I believe this is his first race out, at least of this season, we know. Already makes his way up into provisional P3 with that 133.1. About 4/100ths of a second faster than Boryoshi for the time being. And really just, anytime we see a newcomer out in the grid for an ARC Formula One race. You can do nothing but wish them the best, of course.
It goes Red Bull, AlphaTauri, Mercedes, AlphaTauri.
And then McLaren, Williams, McLaren seems that it will be a Red Bull Mercedes power unit dominant weekend this time out. Of course, only time will tell, though. Only about half the drivers that are currently on the grid have put in a lap time. And
I don't know if you heard the news, but after last week, Alex, with the Red Bull Grand Prix of Canada, we got Red Bull on board for
that's right, I
European
believe
endurance race at the Red
endurance.
Bull Ring on
Yep,
iRacing.
the
So
race
Red
has
Bull
been
returning.
relocated. In fact, I believe the race was set to happen at Silverstone. However, it has been relocated to the Red Bull Ring for a
Be it
one-off
that.
Red Bull race.
Look forward to that.
We'll have more information on that race, obviously, as the night goes on. Details still coming out here and there, of course. It's still early goings for a lot of these new partnerships and whatnot that are even still. I mean, always a fun time out that it is around 12 of 13, by the way. I was
I
not
cannot
aware. The schedule,
pronounce.
as far as the
Yeah, did it get
Discord
shortened?
schedule, yeah, I think it must have, because the schedule does have 15 races total, but it seems that it's been shortened to 13. I'm not too sure what exactly is up there. Maybe just the last two races getting chopped off the tail end of the season to make time for the release of the new game, F124, that this series will be switching over to this summer. At least
Oh
as
no, Jamie Knock really out there. He was about that life.
oh, did he really do it? Oh,
Oh yeah,
okay, so
doing it.
a 138.7 for the time being for that Alpine. As mentioned at the top of the broadcast, I believe he's out on those intermediate compound tires. Taking a look now.
Giving her a go.
Indeed, he is.
Jamie Knock been known to cook, just not the tires. See who's on a lap. Here's this Matthew Stotts on a lap. Comes through the final few corners. Crossing the line. What's it gonna be? As Logan Cool DNFs as Stotts goes P1.
An early retirement there from the Alfa Romeo. He will have to sit upon his time at 139. Will probably be bumped down a few more spots because of it. P1 for the time being for the McLaren and Matt Stotts with the 132.3, about 1/10 faster than the Red Bull. Cameron Lopez still looking to get it going, about 2/10 behind his teammate for the time being. Jamie, Jamie Nog in chat mentioning that he has indeed cooked, but if only on more racy compound, I must say. 138.7, not a terrible time in comparison to the rest of the grid. You know, being not expecting it though. Looking like a good weekend of weather here in Coda. Should be sunshine, at least for the beginning of this race. I believe it will be a sunset race, so the track will.
Yep. Every time I see the sunset here at Coda, I just think of that Leclerc shot.
Oh, and it looks like newcomer Matthew on his second lap out in the AlphaTauri has invalidated. He'll have to bring it all the way back around and dump and change. Taking a look now at who may be crossing the line soon.
Cameron had to abort a lap.
Looks like it. Alexis Heredia in the Ferrari, still yet to lay down a lap time. However, great showing from him thus far in his young ARC Formula One career, only on the grid for a few races, but he has certainly shown pace and confidence. Bill, you want to take us around for a lap with him?
Yeah, just gotta find him again. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Cross the start finish line as we head up the long hill. It's the top of the hill, 10 stories to turn one. Get it nice and tight, but not too tight. A little bit of wheel spin there as we start heading through two towards the S's. A lot of lateral load here on these cars, but the downforce lets it stick through 4, 5. Kind of a double apex there for 6. Little drop down there, and then 7. You really want to hit this so you can, yep, right there. Nice and tidy for Heredia. That was how you want to take that. Don't cut too much inside of turn 10. Just one of like several heavy braking zones here. A little passing opportunity there in the race if you're sneaky enough, but now the long run, as you can see, the sun just peeked behind the clouds. We get set for the heaviest braking zone of them all, turn 12, as the car's pitched down. It's going to want to lock up the fronts. See him take a bit of curb there.
Takes plenty of curb.
Quick on the throttle here, gets him set up for 13, 14, a bit of wheel spin. This is double kink. That counts as 2 corners for some reason. It's 15, 16. As we get set for one of my favorite corners here, 17 and 18. Just pitch it out and just pin it. And then just flick it down into 5th. Get over the curb. Don't take too much exit curb. Set you up for the final. And he's bailed.
Oh, it looks like he's backed out, yeah. Interesting choice there. Still yet to put up a time with about 5.5 minutes remaining here.
It was nice and tidy. Like, as far as, like, there was a bit of, like, a snap oversteer here and there, but nothing untoward that would warrant, I mean, listen, we all know the problems of the game, but there was a couple purple sectors in there that,
Yeah, did not seem to be too bad of a lap as he was coming around.
I ran out of gas. Who is Wolf Gaming
Believe
Network?
that is Logan Cool. Shout out Logan.
Oh boy.
Few drivers still yet to put up a lap time here as the clock is really winding down. Of course, Alexis Heredia, who we just saw duck into the pits, Tyler Crabtree, on his way for his first lap of this session.
Yep.
As well, Tyler Latchford in the other Alpine, still sitting in the pits, not too sure what's going on there. He may have a qualifying ban for a racing incident in one of the previous weeks, just not too sure until we check afterward. Oh, and an early invalidation there from the Mercedes of Tyler Crabtree. He will have to take it around once more just to get a time on the board at this point. As it stands, we've got 4 drivers into the 32s. That is, of course, Boryoshi in P4, Cameron Lopez and George Knight in the Red Bulls, respectively, P3 and 2, and Matthew Stotts, who's remained on provisional pole for the majority of this session, looking to repeat a pole position start as he did our last time out for the Red Bull Canadian Grand Prix.
Yeah, Alex, 3.25 minutes left. And if there's no Mikey, we Cameron Lopez doesn't even have to lift a finger. Well,
yeah, this is good as wrapped, honestly.
Let me do some quick math, and I will get back to you, because there is technically 2 races.
I think at 27, he's clear. Mikey, I mean, the most points Mikey would be able to score next weekend, the final race of the season, would be 26.
Yes, but Jackson Altman's not here either this week, so signed, sealed, delivered.
Grid looking thin, especially at the top. Of course, we had an incident about halfway through the season that involved one of our top drivers of the entire league getting the boot for some issues caused, and it's really thrown a spanner into the works of the Drivers' Championship. It's been an open board since then. Matthew Stott's looking to make his way up it if he can tonight, but of course, I mean, Cameron Lopez, without Mikey DeYoung here, and Jackson Altman to contend, he may as well just kind of turn it in and give himself a nice, safe, easy race. The championship is good as his.
Yeah, Stotts was pole in Canada and then had that lap 1 incident. And I wouldn't even say incident, just didn't get off the line. Dropped all the way back to, what was it, P9? And was able to ultimately battle back too. And ouch. And the teammates
Oh.
collide.
Oh, Cameron Lopez getting the short end of the stick on that one. Has managed to keep it going. Does not seem that the contact caused any. The fact that it happened in the first place has given George Knight a 5-place grid penalty for the start of this race, unfortunately. At the moment, out qualifying his teammate.
Oh,
Man, and that's really gonna. That
that's
might
different.
might lend to a change in strategy for the team, might lend to a bunch of different scenarios that we could see playing out now that they will be separated to some degree. Boryoshi with the quick retirement from P4 with about a minute remaining in this qualifying session. He'll be sitting upon his time of 132.
Real interested to see Heredia, see what he does here. Feel like the pace is there. Oh, and look at them. They're absolutely stacked up going through the final sector trying to get.
Yeah, everybody creating a bit of space for that final run here. This is it. This is all into this one. Matthew Stotts, I believe, no, it's not. It will be Deshaun Davis over the line. And a bit of a twitch there for Alexis Heredia as he makes his way through the middle of Sector 2 down the back stretch at the moment. And he needs a lap here, I mean, if nothing else. This is his banker, unfortunately. This will probably not be his best possible lap. He's just looking to keep it clean and tidy enough to get over the line without any invalidations. Lays down a purple
Just
Sector
get one
2
on the
for his
board.
troubles. Seems to be good for now. Does not seem to be pushing too hard, as just mentioned. I mean, I believe that he's just trying to bank one here, and he has a good chance of ending up at least top 10, given the rest of the times that we're seeing across the board. A bit of a spread here tonight.
Ooh, ooh.
Oh, and some more wheel spin as he
Ooh.
exits the final corner. But it's
Imagine
good
if it
for
wasn't for the
P2.
wheels. But here
Yeah,
comes
if
Matthew Stotts. Stotts is up a tenth.
what will he do? He
Bing.
does not manage
Oh,
to improve, down by 2/100ths on his previous best, but that is provisional pole for the time being. Let's see if anybody else is able to put in a
Deshaun
lap better.
Davis.
Next across the line, teammate of Matthew Stotts. Around the final corner he goes, and over the line is not able to improve, about half a second down, and it is just a chain from here. A bunch of cars crossing the line. Tyler Latchford will hold on for P10 to start. AJ Knickel only able to get up to P9 with the 133 on his time.
He moves from
Yeah,
P5.
George Knight
That's a
onto
record show,
provisional
though.
pole just until the end of this qualifying session, though, unfortunately, of course, as we saw, bit of an incident there he got into with his teammate will end up with a grid penalty because of it, but that does count as a pole position. So, as mentioned, George
Gee,
Knight
by three
getting
tenths.
pole over teammate and championship leader Cameron Lopez by quite a margin, over half a second. He will, however, start this race in P5 due to a complication during qualifying session in which he ran into his teammate. Matthew Stotts will start the race from P1 but qualifies P2. Alexis Heredia will start alongside him. However, his qualifying position is P3. This is going to be so confusing. I'm sorry. Karen Lopez qualifies P4 with Boriyoshi P5. Newcomer Matthew will line up P6. However, it will be P5 as mentioned because of the grid penalty. No, it won't actually. We're good from here. Jamie Knock will get P7. Tyler Crabtree and Jamie Cavanini, P8 and P9 each. And uh, honestly, I was racking my brain too hard trying to account for the grid positions given the starter's penalty assessed to George Knight. He will end up. And it looks like we're good to go here from COTA, Circuit of the Americas. Fabulous driver's track. I don't personally know anybody who's attended this race as a spectator, but I'm sure it is a grand experience. Of course, the classic giant hill in the run up to turn one is just a a feature of this track that is very memorable for both drivers and spectators alike. It's so cool to see onboards as they're cruising up that hill. I believe it is the largest elevation change of any one sector of a track on the F1 calendar. And of
Yeah,
course,
until we
you've
get to
got
the
the.
new Saudi Arabian one.
This is true. The the one that's on like a
If
bridge
you
or
flip,
whatever,
goodbye.
like 2 stories or 200 feet above the ground level. This track is rumored to be just on stilts, basically. It's quite crazy. If you have not seen renditions of this track, just like AI renders and whatnot, you should definitely take a peek because it's
It's
something.
AI generated.
Of course, another key feature of this track, something that I wish to experience myself before I end up kicking the bucket, is that giant tower that they have right
Mm,
along the
yes.
start finish line. The spectators tower that you can just chill and watch the race from, and it's like a full 360-degree view. You just look out one window as they pass, and then you turn your head and look out the other window, and you have a full view of the
Yeah, if you go
track.
on board with Matthew Stotts, you can see it up to the right there. It almost looks like a crazy ramp you'd see. Sorry, up to the left. And you're going to see it right as Stotts turns through the corner here. Boom.
Yeah, that's the one. Just such a prominent feature. I mean, just personally, I'd love to spend a race watching from up there at some point before I die. And I'll probably make it happen. But of course, just a classic track, very much a driver's track. People love
Mm.
racing here.
Yeah, the racing that you see on TV usually with the real life isn't as compelling, but when you get to strap into any sort of simulator or even just an arcade and just take a car around here, it flows. So this is one of Herman Tilke's best tracks. I mean, he's had some misses, Abu Dhabi, but Coda is magnificent.
Taking a look now at the compound choices up and down the grid. And of course, most drivers opting for the medium compound. I'm actually rather surprised to see softs out. I was expecting plenty of hard compounds off the start, but we've got our
Hmm.
last two runners, Aiden McCarthy and Logan Cool, P14 and P15 respectively, running the softs. And then it's basically mediums the whole rest of the way,
Oh,
besides Jamie Knock P7 and AJ Kaninkle P10 running the softs as well. So it's game on. From here, folks, Matthew Stotts is off and running, and I think we may have had some technical difficulties. Bill, you good?
I was kicked, but cover the start before you.
Matthew Stotts off and running. Just looking to get a invite out real quick. Sorry, guys. Hard to do a race with only one of us in the booth having eyeballs upon it. And Alexis Heredia jumping his way up and sticking right there on the tail end of the McLaren. Cameron Lopez also following along, looking to make a move on that Ferrari as quick as possible, it looks like. All these drivers, as mentioned, starting this race on the medium compound tire. Newcomer Matthew up to P4 for his troubles. Doing a decent job sticking there with the lead three. However, for the time being, he will have to hold P4, and he is defending hard from the Mercedes of Borioshi, looking to make the move on him. Not quite enough on that attempt. Bit more movement up and down the grid as Tyler Latchford makes the move on Jamie Cavanini for P10, as well as, I believe, Matthew making the move on Jamie Knock. Both Jamies getting the short end of those sticks, as Boryoshi has actually made his move on newcomer Matthew and has made his way up into P4, and it's game on.
Was I able to get back in loud and clear?
You were or weren't?
I'm asking. Do you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, alright, good.
Are you in?
And we're back. Yep.
Yeah.
Just a
So,
weird issue.
one lap around, and Matthew Stodd's not too good of a getaway, however, good enough to defend everything else that's happened behind him. Jamie Knock now making the move on the Mercedes of Boryoshi and up into P4, if only for a split second, as Boryoshi snatches it straight back.
Yeah, he's gonna want to get those hard softs. He's got to use him to his advantage now or never.
Yeah, this is really it. I mean, the field is only going to accordion outwards from
Ooh.
here. Jamie Knock right up on the tail end of that Mercedes. Matthew dropping positions, a few already just off the start, goes a little wide there, opens the door for George Knight to make his move up into P6. Matthew down to P7. Tyler Crabtree is the next one knocking on that door of the AlphaTauri. I'm sure he'll be looking to make a move soon enough. Not quite enough as they go through the tail end of the second sector there. And it's game
A
on.
whole gaggle of cars there. It's just all wadded up.
Looks like there was an issue towards the rear of the pack with the Alfa Romeo of Logan Cool, unfortunately. He finds
Oh,
himself quite a bit back at the moment. Aiden McCarthy battling it out with him for that P14 position. I think these two might have tangled and ended up quite a bit behind the rest of the pack. Ayrton Frederica as well. This is kind of weird because they do show, at least as far as the track map goes, to be somewhat there. They're just on the tail end of the pack. They're not necessarily a lap and a half behind, so not too sure what's going on with the timing there. Oh, everything seems to have sorted itself out. Timing looks to be back to normal. It was showing them as being about a minute and a half behind for a
yeah.
second there. Not too sure what was up with that. Everything's good now, though. Back to the front, we take a peek at Cameron Lopez, now about half a second behind Matthew Stotts. Matthew Stotts looking to spend some of those medium compound tire life early on in this race just to build himself out a gap, and Cameron Lopez is just kind of tucking in and saving his to some degree. Alexis Heredia doing very well to stay right with them,
Well,
about a second behind at the moment, as we see our first track limits violation penalty being assessed to the Alfa Romeo of Logan Cool. Oh, and side
pass
by
for the
side they
lead.
go. Cameron Lopez, for the lead of this race, does make his move on Matthew Stotts, and Matthew Stotts just kind of understood the situation, wasn't trying to take the fight to him too hard. So Cameron Lopez up into into the lead of this race, and honestly, like, he's off and running. As long as he's able to fight for a podium in this race, I mean, the championship is all but locked up.
As long as he shows up, if he gets, no, it's impossible. No one can. It's our. He could park the car right now, Alex, and
Right.
retire. The gap being 27,
I guess that
even with the fastest lap, you'd fall 1 point short.
exactly, and I guess that was kind of the point I was trying to make during the qualifying session, being that Mikey DeYoung has not joined us tonight. I mean,
Defending champion.
even if Cameron Lopez were to not score any points tonight and sit out the race next week, being only one left in the season, it's just not enough for Mikey DeYoung to be able to make up the gap. I think that we can crown Cameron Lopez the champion tonight. Of course, I think, as we know, just given the points now, he will be champion one way or the other, but I will not make a big deal of it until the end of this race. We will just kind of watch along, knowing that it's the situation. However, Matthew Stott's doing very well to stick to the back of that Red Bull. Alexis Heredia as well, as mentioned, a newcomer to the grid, only a few races under his belt here in ARC, sticking right with that lead too for the final podium position. Just going to let them duke it out, it looks like. He is not getting too close. He certainly has the opportunity to, but I think he understands that these two are going to fight each other much harder than necessary, and he's just going to kind of pick up the scraps of whatever may come of it. He is keeping himself right on the limit of the DRS range, and for the moment it's working for him as we find ourselves here on lap 4. A few other shakeups up and down the grid. We have George Knight working his way back up into P4. Jamie Knock in P5 with newcomer Matthew P6. And then it's the Mercedes brothers of Boryoshi and Tyler Crabtree, P6, P7, and 8.
I mean, Cameron has nothing to lose, but he also doesn't have to be aggressive. It's like, which way do you go if you're Cameron Lopez? You know you got the championship. Do you just, even if you wreck out, it is what it is. At the end of the day, it'll still happen. Or do you just take it easy and just enjoy it?
See, that's the thing. Like, it's tough to get into the mind of a driver any given week, but is Cameron Lopez looking to pad the stats here? Or is he just racing the way that he expects himself
Whoa.
to?
There's a 5-second penalty for Matthew for cutting a corner and gaining a position.
Oh, yeah. In fifth place, the AlphaTauri, that may come into play later on down the line, but for the time being, yeah, that's a 5-second penalty that he will be sitting upon come the end of his first stint.
But I want to touch on the fact that Cameron's going to go for it, absolutely. He's going to, and he's going to show up next week and go for it again. Unless he just wants a little vacation.
As he should. I mean, for him to check out and whatnot, although, like, mathematically, it makes total sense. It's like, why waste the mileage on the car? Why waste the risk of something happening to you as a driver and whatnot? But even still, just the expectation that you have for yourself as a race car driver. I mean, you can't just sit it out only because you know that you've already won. You got to prove
No.
it. I definitely respect the pace at which he's setting for the grid tonight, as he seems to be all out up into the lead of this race, and we have a safety car deployed. I believe because of the Aston Martin of Ayrton Frederick at the tail end of the field must have been an incident of some sort, and the first into the pits will be the Alfa Romeo of Logan Cool, looking to capitalize on this. Full safety car deployed. Not too sure what happened with that Aston Martin. It was right at the tail end of the grid, well out of the points, so I guess we just did not catch it soon enough. However, that is the first one to bite the dust here at Coda.
Yep. It showed pretty much we crashed out right by the DRS detection zone. So that double right-hander of turn 18 and or 17, 18 fell victim. Well, Matthew should be able to pit and serve that 5-second penalty under safety car, so that could help. Certainly want to get it out of the way during the race and try and claw back, as opposed to maybe a late safety car bunches up the field and then you get Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, pretty much. Of course, still very early in this race. Will be interesting to see if any strategy calls are made here on lap 6. At least among these front runners, I'd say from P1 down to about P5 or 6 or so. Will
Would
be
be
interesting.
amazed if they put in. There they come.
It looks like they will, yeah. Early pit on those medium compound tires for both Cameron Lopez and Matthew Stotts. Alexis Heredia kind of reading the room, ducking his way in as well. George Knight, Boriyoshi, newcomer Matthew, Tyler Crabtree, Jamie Knock, everybody from P1 down to P10 already into the pits here.
No change in position at the pointy end. Disqualified for illegal blocking. Who was that?
I believe
Oh,
Jamie Cavanini in the Haas, yes,
must
disqualified
have
from the session.
must have spun out on pit entry and blocked the pit. So, oh boy, have to keep my ear to the ground on that one. See what they say. Try and get a quick tidbit from them.
All right,
A quick lull in the action.
as we have a lull, just want to give another shout out to the chat. What's up, guys? Always good to see you here. Some friendly faces in the chat tonight, some newcomers as well, and as always, we just want to mention that if you ever want to participate yourself in any of these races, if you see yourself being on one of these streams one day, then the best way to do that is to visit the links in the description of this video and join us over here at ARC. We do races, I think, like 4 nights a week at this point. Bunch of different games, bunch of different disciplines. If you're ever looking to join, just take a look at those links, why don't you?
Make sure you slap the thumbs up button too. If you're watching, just move your mouse over, click it. If you're watching on your phone, use your thumb. If you're watching on your television, do whatever you can to navigate to the thumb.
Whatever you do, do not hit the red sky button.
No,
That is not the one that you want in this scenario.
no.
So once more behind the safety car, I do believe. I don't think it will be in this lap. I think the rest of the pack rejoined too late for that to be the case. I'm not sure, though.
We've seen it happen in weird places, but I don't think so. But
I think we will be getting going on lap 9 of 28 here. Cameron Lopez will be leading the pack, as he has been for the previous, I believe, 5 laps or so. Made his move on Matthew Stotts early. Matthew Stotts just kind of reading the situation, tucking in behind him, and has not lost sight of the Red Bull since. However, I mean, commendable move there from Cameron Lopez just to make his presence known as early in this race as he did. I want to give a quick shout out, of course, to SimLeaguePro.com, your place for just about everything ARC related in terms of statistics, schedules, and just about everything else. If you're looking to see an updated leaderboard of any given racing series that we do in ARC, if you're looking to see the weekly schedule of any racing series that we do in ARC, make sure you go over to SimLeaguePro.com. You'll find us pretty easily. And take a look there. It is my primary source of all the stats that I use here on the broadcast. So if you are somebody that is just kind of statistically inclined, if you're a numbers type of person the way that I am, make sure you pop over to simleaguepro.com and give a look at what we're doing over there as far as ARC is concerned.
yeah, Jamie Cavanini confirming. Got disqualified for blocking the pits for absolutely no reason. Such expletive man.
And of course, for those who are not aware as far as the way we do things over here in ARC, I mean, we do have our own team of stewards and we do have our own appeals process in case the game just kind of screws you out of one thing or another and whatnot. You know, you don't necessarily always have to rest upon that that decision and whatnot. There's always a means to appeal and to get things corrected if necessary. So of course that early disqualification we've seen for the Haas may come back as just a last place of the runners that end up finishing the race and whatnot, depending on the appeals process and everything that happens after a race has already concluded. So
Yeah, I don't
all
think there's
that
anything they can do about that.
I know. Something as severe as a disqualification, the game just saying, no, you can't race anymore, it's kind of hard to reverse. However, just
It's
for the
impossible.
newcomers and whoever may be watching and thinking that, you're just kind of at risk of what the game decides for you, there is always a process by which you can go through appeals and have our stewards look at the incident for any given
Wait,
incident just about.
did did Cam and Matthew Stotts go medium?
It looks
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it. I
yeah.
think they refreshed the mediums. Yeah, both of them opting for the mediums, taking a
Oh,
look now at the tire details. Of course, it will be on the go of Cameron Lopez, and he goes a bit early here before he hits the final corner. Matthew
caught him
Stott's,
napping a bit.
yeah, Matthew Stott's not as quick off the start as Cameron Lopez. Will drop back just a hair because of it. Alexis Heredia sort of read the situation though. However, should be mentioned that Ferrari driver currently sitting P3 has opted for the hard compound tires. He will be looking to take the second stint long.
Probably till the end. They only got to do 20 laps if they can just be Boryoshi, Tyler Crabtree, and Alexis Heredia kind of on the optimal. I doubt Cameron and Stotts are going to gain a 20-second gap
Yeah, I
as we
mean,
see.
George Knight
It
making
looked
his
like he
move
just
there.
let him
Yeah.
by.
Not too sure. Maybe he's still warming up those cold hard compound tires. I'm just not sure. Boryoshi also opting for the hard compound tires in P5 behind the Ferrari of Alexis Heredia. But I've just taking a look at the strategies and whatnot as we came into the race. The optimal strategy was medium to hard. The question is, though, was lap 6 or 7 when they pitted under safety car too early to make that strategy switch? Only time will tell, of course, as we go
It
through the
do be
rest of
hot
this
here.
race. Yeah, and as mentioned, I mean, you can expect the track temperature to fall just slightly as the sun starts to go down. But for the time being, I mean, it's basically Alexis Heredia and Boryoshi up here in the top 5 on those hard compound tires, just kind of seeing what they can make happen because of it. Few purple laps coming across now, of course. George Knight will have it for the time being, sitting in P3 currently. Matthew Stott's doing very well to keep right with Cameron Lopez.
We see Tyler Latchford, only one on the softs. So, whoa, who's that? Was that?
Oh,
Oh, it's
yeah.
Tyler Crabtree's around in the S's. Oh,
Oh, yes, he's made his way back onto the track, but he will be the last of the running order because of it. Down to P13 from, I believe, P9 it was. Tyler
either way,
Latchford winning out.
just don't fall back by 20 seconds, and you can gain a lot of positions because these guys are. I mean, if we're second guessing the hards make it to the end, the guys on the mediums, and especially the softs, are gotta pit again.
Yeah. Tyler Latchford right on the tail end of the AlphaTauri of AJ Knickel takes a peek up the inside, gets his nose alongside the rear wheels of that AlphaTauri. Not quite enough to make it happen there, though. From P9, battling for P8. Looks to take the inside line again. AJ Knickel forces him
Ooh.
just a bit wide, but gives him plenty of space. And it's game on there for the Alpine and the AlphaTauri.
Uh-oh.
Oh, and I believe we've had another technical issue involving one of the Mercedes this time, Boryoshi, getting a notification popping up that he's left the session. His car is currently ghosted. I can only imagine that the game lagged him out from P6 at the moment he was. It was newcomer Matthew who made the move on him as soon as he lagged out. So Boryoshi down to P7, but I don't believe that he's currently controlling that car. He will be in a moment, though.
Yeah, sent him a... Oh, Matthew gets a penalty there.
Oh, and you can only hope as the season starts to wind down that technical issues don't throw a wrench into the plans and whatnot, the expectations of any given driver on these Friday night races. But Boryoshi has made his way back. He has fallen one position, but he is back in the car, it seems, and he is off and running, looking to make his way up from P7.
There goes Matthew on Jamie Knock. At the front, it's a McLaren sandwich between the Red Bulls. Or, sorry, Red Bull sandwich with a
Yeah,
McLaren in the
very
middle.
tight up there. And as mentioned, I mean, Alexis Heredia, just kind of the silent assassin here in the Ferrari, currently sitting P4, but he's just been biding his time, if nothing else. He's not pushing necessarily too hard, but he has stuck right with this lead pack for just about the entire race.
Yeah, I'm not sure why you'd want to push up and just be stuck in the dirty air and ruin the tires. We can just maintain like a 2-second gap and pray for no safety cars for the next 18 odd laps to get you to the end on
I mean, I feel
what
like
could be a big brain strat.
he understands the different in strategy that's developing here, as he's the highest runner at the moment on the hard compound tires. He's looking to make this stint
Oh
go
no!
long.
Well,
As
3 seconds not gonna help.
Commentators curse as we're following along with him. He does pick up a track limits violation penalty, so he will be sitting upon 3 seconds come either his next pit stop or the end of this race. And honestly, just in the position that he's in, would you not take it as sort of a drive-through? I would duck in right now and get it over with as soon as possible. He's still in a good position to make it
Who?
work. Alexis Heredia, who's just picked himself up that track limits violation. Is that
Ah,
something
3
you want to bank
seconds.
on at the end of the race, or is that something you just want to
You
clear out?
can't. You can't serve a penalty unless it's for a 5 second.
Oh,
So
5 and
say you
5 and
had
10, yeah.
2 track limits penalties for 6 seconds. You can't pit and take 5 off that. The game won't allow it. But if you got what Matthew got earlier, which was completely cutting a corner and awarded the 5 second, that can be served as well as
Right.
10 seconds and above. But 3 seconds, unfortunately, will stick with you till the end. But like
Until
we
the
said,
end.
the strategy is shifting towards, like, as long as he just not sure what the point in pushing the car is, you know? Why why risk choosing? I'm pretty sure he just got a corner cut there as well.
Yeah, and I mean
Just
the
slow down and simmer down, because you've taken if you've taken the tires to set yourself up like this, then you gotta trust the process. And we see that, like, the ERS is completely drained. There's I guess they're just banking on pitting again. I don't there's no other way around it,
I think
because they'd
he's
be saving.
yeah, I mean, we had an early safety car already at the back of the pack. I think his only real shot here is to bank on another happening as we find ourselves with about 15 and a half laps remaining here. Plenty of time for more incidents to occur, however, I think that's kind of his only chance at this point for a podium position at least. Still sticking right up there with the top three. He's out of DRS range at the moment, but I mean not
Do want to mention
necessarily too far.
Stotts did take the lead.
Yeah, making the quick move on Cameron Lopez.
Trouble.
Was
Yep,
that
that is a
AJ
Tyler
Knickel?
Latchford around.
AJ Knickel well off the track as well. There in P8, the Alpha Tower. He makes his way back on. Not too sure what happened there. Tyler Latchford, as also mentioned, down to P12 now, also setting upon a penalty of his own. Must have ran into some type of trouble. But George Knight, I think, quietly making a case for driver of the day, if nothing else. Sticking right up there with teammate Cameron Lopez, and of course, getting the symbolic pole position here, if nothing else. Having to start with the grid penalty, but still finished in P1 as far as qualifying is concerned. It will go into the record books as a pole position for him. Sticking right there with his championship leading teammate very well. Maybe looking to make a move now, but as well, Cameron Lopez looking to make the move on Matthew Stotts, and it's a double move! Both Red Bulls up into the lead of this race, P1 and P2, making their move around the McLaren. Matthew Stotts down from P1 to P3 for his troubles. Oh, and that was just brilliant from the Red Bulls there. Oh, what a move,
Synchronized
Cameron
overtaking,
Lopez.
Alex.
Up back into the lead of this race is your championship leader, Cameron Lopez, on such a smooth move. Oh my goodness, smooth operators in those Red Bulls, able to make the move there on the McLaren. Matthew Stotts is fighting from the back foot here.
Another one for
Yeah,
Matthew.
newcomer Matthew picking up another penalty in that AlphaTauri, unfortunately. Currently racing P5, though. I mean, all things considered, he's put himself in a very respectable race up to this point. Of course, only time will tell where he will happen to fall after those penalties are assessed come the end of the race. But all eyes here on Cameron Lopez, your championship leader, looking to wrap it up here in Coda with teammate George Knight in tow. He's just pulling him right along. He's saying, wherever I go, you're coming with me.
The two compatriots out of Britain.
Yeah, a bit of Beatlemania here in the Americas
George
series.
Knight.
Yeah, making his move on teammate Cameron Lopez, George Knight in the second Red Bull, up into the lead of this race now. I believe that is 3 different drivers that we've seen in the lead of this race up to this point. Of course, the 2 that we have just been mentioning, George Knight and Cameron Lopez, as well as the McLaren of Matthew Stotts, of course.
George Knight saying, Cameron, you've had your moment in the sun. I want my first win.
Of course, tire strategy not really playing much of a part here among these front runners, all of them on the medium compound tires. Alexis Heredia in the Ferrari P4 dropping back quite a bit, about 2.5 seconds behind this lead pack.
Good, save the tires.
He was right there with them, but of course opting for those hard compound tires. He's just looking to take it long. stay close enough for it to make a difference after the end of this second stint. Second stint, because of the early safety car that we saw, every driver from P1 down to P9 ducking their way into the pits on lap 6. A very abrupt change in strategy for the majority of the drivers here. And we're just going to see how it plays out. So far, so good for the Red Bull team.
Is Cameron going to get a huge run here? But, I mean, George got an absolute launch out of the corner. It's gonna have to be a lunge, which I don't think Cameron's gonna go for.
Yeah, not quite enough space here as they make their way down the backstretch for Cameron to make a move there on his teammate.
Bit of a rear lockup.
Yeah, lockup there.
We saw that a lot out of him last week at Canada, so. These three, it's just. And whoever you put in that second Red Bull this season, it's just been able to just be in the middle of whether or not it's Mikey or Pichet or now Matthew Stotts. 2 weeks in a row. Although Stotts off to a better start than he had last week. And Jamie Knock and Boryoshi have just been battling each other for the last several laps.
Yeah, a bit of a leapfrog going on there for P6 and P7. Jamie Knock currently holding on for the higher position. But yeah,
As Latchford pits.
Very back and forth, yeah. We see the second Alpine ducking his way into the pits from P9, I believe. And yeah, it's crunch time. We've only got about 10.5 laps remaining in this race. And of course, strategy is really going to start playing a part here, as we mentioned. Our three front runners all opting for the medium compound tires, all the same age, all the same wear. Oh, and another big lockup there from Cameron Lopez.
Yeah, but what's important to point out for those who haven't seen it yet, they started on the mediums too, so no matter what, they got to pit again.
Yeah, all three of these drivers. Alexis Heredia opting for the hard compounds after starting on the mediums. He's the first driver in the running order that is good to finish this race as he currently sits. All these drivers ahead of him will need to pit for a different compound before the end of the race. And just given the timing of everything, I can only imagine that all three of these drivers will be trying to play chicken on one another, seeing who blinks first, and they will all be ducking in for soft compound tires.
Oh, you're going to want to blink first.
I feel like the undercut's
gonna...
Yeah.
Considering the heat and the lateral G's these cars face. It's not the softest tire they bring here. I'm not sure the compound. I don't remember, but I feel like it was middle of the range for Pirelli's compounds.
However, I mean, this may play so well into the hands of Alexis Heredia, currently P4, because no matter, I mean, barring any major incident happening within the next 4 laps or so, these drivers, all three at the front of the pack here, are going to have to fight their way back up through the pack to some degree to reclaim their positions. And that kind of leaves Alexis Heredia with a bit of a buffer to those drivers as they will be chasing from behind him. This is going to get real interesting real quick, I feel. Already on lap 18. Cameron Lopez right up into the rear of his teammate, with Matthew Stotts not too far behind as well.
Knock and Boryoshi still trading spots.
And unfortunately, that fight that they're putting on with one another has... Yes, okay, first one to blink will be Cameron Lopez. Playing the undercut here. Matthew Stotts reading the situation and also ducking in. Oh, and that has hung George Knight out to dry to some degree. He is up into the lead of this race with about 5 seconds of room back to Alexis Heredia, who's now up to P2. Boryoshi makes his way up to P3 after our leader's pit. Newcomer Matthew and Jamie Knock will also be ducking their way into the pits. We'll take a look at the tire details to see what everybody is opting for. Can only imagine it's the soft compound, though. And of course it is for both Cameron Lopez and Matthew Stotts. Newcomer Matthew also opting for the soft compound here on lap 19. They will be released upon. And yeah, it's game on. George Knight, you've got to put in the lap of a lifetime here and then duck it in as soon as you can. I mean, can't just run it out from here and expect anything good to happen because of it, even being the fact that you've got a 5.5 second gap. Man, they really hung him out to dry.
Well, it was whoever bit first, so you knew you wanted to bite first.
So, I mean, it is very much so game on from here. Cameron Lopez and Matthew Stotts being released back into the pack in P4 and P5 respectively. And it's not nearly as bad as I expected it to be, I'll be honest. Having both of them pit, I was expecting them to be released closer to about P7 or P8. But they've only have a few cars between them and the lead of this race, which they just find themselves on. George Knight,
Leaders in.
yes, he will be ducking his way into the pits, of course. I mean, any lap you spend out after the other leaders had already pit is just a lap wasted. So Alexis Heredia will make his way up into the lead of this race, and that makes, I believe, the fourth or fifth driver that has held their lead at one point or another in this race.
Oh, Cameron's gonna be close. Wow.
Oh, very close. George Knight just barely able to escape the pit lane exit in front of his teammate, who himself has the McLaren and Matthew Stotts to worry about, just right there on the tail end. Fresh,
But
soft compound tires for all of these
can they?
drivers.
Here's another thing we gotta take into account. Can they catch the leaders here? There is 9 laps, 8.5 to go.
See, that's kind of what I was trying to hint at. Like this opens the door for Alexis Heredia to get a really good finish here, so long as Boryoshi can kind of keep them at bay. Boryoshi himself, who's fighting for just about any point that he can get, of course, somebody that we expect to perform well any given weekend. However, this season has just been a bit of a downer for him thus far. It is really
Yeah,
up to him. Alexis Heredia is counting on that Mercedes to hold up these drivers as much as possible.
gap's already down to 10 seconds. I'm not sure what Boryoshi will be able to do if he catches them. But it is gonna be close. Oh my god, the gap is just dropping rapidly.
Once again, taking a look at the tire details for each driver, and yeah, Boryoshi and Alexis Heredia, both of them on 14-lap-old hard compound tires, with the next four drivers behind them all on fresh soft compound tires. And it is indeed game on, as we see the fastest lap now being assessed to newcomer Matthew in the AlphaTauri.
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty sure George Knight is gonna catch these guys.
And I feel
It's
like
just the
it will be sooner rather than later.
oh, especially now that
Oh no,
like
that's another one.
Boryoshi's now fighting for the win because Boryoshi if can keep the gap to 6 seconds, but George Knight is 1.8, 1.7, 1.4. Yo, the Red Bulls got wings.
So yeah, this has totally changed the dynamic of this podium fight. Alexis Heredia with 6 seconds of penalty that he will be sitting upon come the end of this race. Boryoshi licking his chops just at the chance to fight for a win here. George Knight and Cameron Lopez, both as mentioned, storming their way back up the grid, already on the tail end of that Mercedes. And oh, I feel like the clock is ticking here. Lap 21.
Yeah, I don't even think this is gonna be close.
Oh,
Oh,
George Knight is anxious to make the move. He keeps peeking up the inside, up the outside, any which way he can. Now taking a look up the inside. He will have DRS assistance as he pulls up alongside the Mercedes of Boryoshi and breezes past him, pulling teammate Cameron Lopez right up there with him as well. Cameron Lopez taking a look up the inside of teammate George Knight there as they headed into I believe the first corner, yes. However, has backed off at least some margin to give George enough room to run here. Boryoshi
Yeah, you don't want to
sticking
be
right
up on the
with them.
back of somebody through here. The nose does not like it. You can't turn the car in. It's not as pointy as it once was with clean air. Well, at this point now, the 6-second penalty to Alexis Heredia is the gap is 5.5 seconds now. So, what we thought was a big brain strat turned up to be a pipe dream. But you have to send it. You got nothing to lose. You know what I mean? Newcomer, it's just you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Sebastian
I mean,
Stotts gets by Boryoshi.
another big lockup there from Cameron Lopez. He has really been throwing it around on those tires, whether it's the medium compound or soft compound. Cameron Lopez really pushing for it all throughout this race. And yeah, it is game on. George Knight now within 5 seconds of Alexis Heredia. About a lap and a half ago, sorry, found himself about 5.5 seconds. Now about 1 second chunked out of that gap, and still
Shout out to
ever
Joe.
falling.
Oh, fastest lap to boot. Easy coming.
Yeah, it is
Bringing his
certainly
teammate.
game on. Alexis Heredia, I believe, will just try to be holding on here for whatever he can get. Of course, sitting on that 6 seconds of penalty time. The win is no longer to be fought for here by the Ferrari. I believe he's just trying to hold on for a podium position. However, Matthew Stotts is going to make that extremely difficult for him. Cameron Lopez doing well to give his teammate room to run, just kind of understanding the
Who's
situation.
that? Tyler Latchford, I believe. No.
Oh, Cameron Lopez
Maybe
now
not.
making the move up the inside of George Knight, his teammate, up into P2. And maybe that could have been a team swap. Not too sure what's going on team radio over there at the Red Bull team, but it is now on Cameron Lopez's shoulders, all the weight of this race. And it's really not much. Now that Alexis Heredia has picked up his second track limits violation penalty, it's just smooth sailing for this Red Bull team, all things considered.
Yeah, Boryoshi's still on for a good finish because I'm pretty sure. It's just falling back a bit to Alexis because, well, barring another penalty from Alexis Heredia, Boryoshi could get pulled up into P4. I don't think, now that Stotts lost these guys, the pace that he had earlier is just not the same on the softs. Oh, the gap's closing. Look at Cam's pulled out a gap a little bit here too. Who's that? Got a caution for Logan Cool, who goes off in front of the leaders. Oh boy. Blue flag situation here. See how they navigate Logan here. It's another penalty.
Yeah, I believe that's 2 penalties in the previous 2 laps there for the Alfa Romeo, and another early retirement here from AJ Knickel.
Was that in the pit?
Cameron Lopez now making the move here for the lead of this race. He takes a peek up the inside, does manage to make it stick. Alexis Heredia just outdrove himself. Oh, on those old hard compound tires. Overdrove that corner quite a bit, left himself hanging, and Up into P1 and P2 respectively are both Red Bull drivers, and he falls to P3, of course sitting upon that penalty time that he'll have to serve come the end of this race. So, I mean, Matthew Stotts is licking his chops here, if nothing else, looking at that final podium position, knowing that it is well within reach. I believe Alexis Heredia will be falling to P4 out of the podium finish because of these penalties. However, it is game on here at the front of the pack. George Knight doing so well to keep up with teammate Cameron Lopez tonight. Looking to make the move here up the inside. He goes side by side and does manage to make it happen up into the lead of this race. George Knight. I believe Cameron Lopez, telegraphed that move and sort of backed out a bit for him, not wanting to cause any trouble with a teammate this late in the race. Finding ourselves now with about 2.5 laps remaining here on lap 25 of 28. And we are off and running for this Red Bull team. Cameron Lopez making a strong case as to why the championship deserves to be locked up for him tonight. Was fighting for the win just about every step of the way of this race, and still is, of course. However, has kind of bowed out of the position for the time being.
He's just playing coy. I mean, what do you want to be? Would you rather be in first or second with DRS going down the backstretch on the last lap here, Alex?
This is true.
I don't want to be the guy in front.
Matthew Stotts just taking chunks and chunks out of that gap up to P3 of the Ferrari of Alexis Heredia. Gap was about 5 seconds, now down to about 3.5 just in the last lap or so. Matthew Stotts is storming his way up through this grid. So onto the backstretch they'll go with Cameron Lopez much closer to the tail end of George Knight than George Knight was to his tail end on the previous lap. We'll see if it warrants a move. He does take a peek up the inside in the same exact spot as George Knight made his move, and back up into the lead of this race. The Red Bulls playing a bit of leapfrog here late in this one.
Yep, I wouldn't have done it. I would have just stayed with him. Now you gave George Knight the opportunity to not go for the move on lap 27 and wait for lap 28.
Yeah, no need. Just kind of
But
lay in wait.
It's hard to do. It's hard to do as a racer. You see an opening, you got to plow through it. You got to go.
George Knight also should be mentioned 1 lap younger tires that he's on because of the fact that both Matthew Stotts and Cameron Lopez ducked their way in and kind of left him out to dry. However, it does not seem to have hampered him too badly as he made his way right back up into the fight. And now he's got 1 fresher lap to use.
He had a stonking in-lap on those mediums to make it so when he came out still ahead of his teammate. We said the undercut was going to be powerful, and it should have been, but George Knight negating that.
Yeah, not powerful enough to have gotten the best of George Knight, of course. Right up here fighting with his teammate for the lead.
A lot of wheel spin there.
So on the penultimate lap, we find ourselves here, 27 of 28. The Red Bulls, the leaders of this race, making their way down the backstretch.
Oh, I don't think
Sector 2.
George isn't going to have enough. You see him pulling out to get clean air.
Yeah, not quite enough there. Bit too much distance to the tail end of his teammate. But and another lockup from Cameron Lopez. I believe that's the 6th or 7th that we've seen
they lock
from
up
Cameron
every
Lopez.
lap there. And it does not seem to hurt him. They've been locking up. You can see the tire marks from everybody locking up going into there. I believe that's 12. Yes. Yes? Yes.
And should be mentioned, as we take a peek down the rest of the grid, this is, of course, the closest battle on track at the moment. That for the lead of this race between these two Red Bull drivers. George Knight driving the absolute pants off that car. I did not expect him to be fighting for the win as much as he has tonight. Of course,
his debut race. His debut race at Singapore this season, midway through, when he was in the Alfa Romeo, he showed he was absolutely quick. There was a bit of internet issues, and there was some, I guess, bad luck. Replacing a wing every lap didn't help him, but the pace was there. It's good that he's actually getting to show it. Not that the the car matters in terms of, pace. They're all even, but
Yeah, an excellent race for him tonight, just all things considered. Of course, bagging provisional pole. However, starting the race under grid penalty conditions, he
here
had
we
to drop
go.
5 positions. And it is
Cameron's
game
going
on.
very defensive.
Yes, he is way wide on the outside as they come
I
down the
think
back
it's worked.
stretch. It has, as George Knight will not even, he will not have enough room to even put a bit of a scare into the mind of Cameron Lopez as they come around on this final lap. It looks like it will be Cameron Lopez, barring any major incident. However, I mean, should not expect anything from these two, the caliber at which they drive at. Coming through the final sector, weaving their way through at the moment. Cameron Lopez building his gap out to over half a second now.
I believe Red Bull definitely locked up too. I'm not sure. AJ, can you confirm?
Last week, good stuff.
Red Bull team as Cameron Lopez does manage to hold off teammate George Knight for the win here at COTA. Cameron Lopez just about, I mean, not just about, I believe that secures